right now we're talking about like, this is how we hear things. We're not even sure yet. We're still going to make that next call. But we start hearing whispers of things, and then we start jumping on that, and then we start doing our reporting.
Welcome to Tap&Table, a food and drink podcast for the Pikes Peak region. My name's Ryan Hannigan, and I'm here with my co-host, Matthew Schniper. This episode is our very first episode, and it's brought to you by the Downtown Partnership and Pikes Peak Brewing's Trail Water. Downtown Colorado Springs, home of the largest concentration of independent restaurants in Southern Colorado, is proud to sponsor Tap&Table and support the passionate individuals who make the food and beverage industry a cultural highlight in our lives. With more than 140 restaurants, cafes, bars, breweries, and coffee shops within its boundaries, Downtown Colorado Springs has the perfect something to satisfy any craving. Find a complete list of where to dine and drink at downtowncs.com. Special thanks to our recording location. As you can see in the background, we're here at Streetcar 520, who is one of the first places to have trail water on tap. So we're going to start off, and I'm just going to talk to Matt here and sort of figure out what he's doing and who he is for all of you that don't know. Hopefully some of you listening do know who we are, but there's a chance that we're brand new to you. So hopefully this can help shed a little light on that and figure that all out. So Matt, first off, how do we know each other?
We know each other because we worked at the Colorado Springs Independent together for the 5 years you were there. I was there a total of, 15 and change, given some freelancing contract and so forth. But we overlapped at work. We were also near neighbors. We lived about a block apart, so we actually had a personal friendship as well. And I actually first met your father back in the day when he was running Pikes Peak Community Foundation. So when I met you, I was like, oh, you're a Hannigan. I know you.
Yep.
So yeah.
That's a small world. So let's talk a little bit of what Side Dish with Schniper is.
Yes. Side Dish is, I used to have a column at the Indy called Side Dish. It was my food and drink news, and it's an extension of that. So I do critiques and reviews, which we called Appetite, but I always had Side Dish going on the side, and that's what I've kept going with my new Substack newsletter. So once I left the Indy, I started my Substack, and it's still a place to gather all the food and drink news for this region. It's critiques, it's criticism, it's who's opening, who's closing, what's going on, chef banter, coffee, spirits, cocktails, mocktails, non-alcoholic drinks, everything, anything food and drink. That's what I still do. And I just want to be there to represent our scene, talk about our industry, and, do these things like what we're doing here today, like be in a cool spot and have a nice drink.
Yeah, so you talked about it being something you had as part of the Indie. What led you to actually taking this on full time?
I think it's because I was not ready to give up doing food and drink journalism, even when the paper was having trouble, even when we were getting downsized. I got downsized and stayed on as a section editor. I used to be head editor for 3 years. Even then, I wanted to keep doing this. So kept the relationship with them. It was never anything personal. That was business. We all know what's happening with journalism and shrinking newsrooms. So even after getting laid off this past March entirely, when the newsroom got even smaller, kept that relationship. They started syndicating from me, actually, and started buying my Side Dish content, which the relationship has lasted all the way up until this past month when the paper went dark. And I'm really appreciative of that and grateful for that. I think that was the end of the question.
Yeah, it's hard to really sort of talk about, layoffs and how you got, not excommunicated, but you weren't able to do it in your own manner, so you took it upon yourself to sort of become an independent journalist.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so great about Substack and having a platform like that where we can go and have a back end ready to go, just do what we do, put out our content, direct mail it to our subscribers for free. We also have a paid option so people can support the journalism, which is hugely meaningful to me. I've got to figure out how to do this as a self-employed journalist, and that's super hard. I mean, if newsrooms are having trouble as a unit, imagine the individual journalists trying to get paid to do what they do. It's not easy. So I'm in month 9 and I'm still out hunting for those sponsors, trying to build my audience, both the free and the paid subscribers. And it's just like what we're doing here in the Springs, though. It's relationship based. I've probably onboarded the majority of my people face-to-face with a handshake. It's not just sitting there waiting idly for things to come in. It's actually being out in the community constantly, going to events, hosting events, doing pop-ups, and meeting people and bringing them into that fold. And then they're part of the community. That's like the Facebook group we created, Culinary Colorado Springs, during the pandemic. We've got 10,000 members now, still active, still supporting restaurants, still doing this. It's like a great gathering place for foodies to come and talk, and restaurants to post things, etc. So that's kind of like what I want my Substack to be too. It's in its own little way, it's a community gathering place. Feed me tips, give me information. I'm going to keep reporting, keep doing what I do from the journalism side, and you can get it free to your inbox every week. It's that easy.
That's awesome. So, I mean, how many subscribers do you have right now? You talked about you have 10,000 in this group, and I know that starting off and striking out on your own, that's a tough thing to also. You're now your own marketing team, you're your own sales team, you're your own admin,
right.
You're the reporter. All of that is now.
Don't forget accounts receivable and accounts
every,
payable and publisher, editor,
you no
all the
longer
things.
have an entire organization behind you, and it's all you. But like, how many people responded to you starting this out?
Oh, sure, it was amazing. Week 1, I had over 500 people come on board, which was just awesome. I mean, just this phenomenal start, and really, I mean, every day I check my email, both my emails. There's another couple free subscribers trickling in daily. Occasionally a paid will pop up. I'll go to an event and suddenly I'll get 30 that day. I go on the news with Matt Meister. Suddenly I go out in the parking lot, and by the time I've even gotten back to my house, I've got another 50 new subscribers. Every time I get an exposure point, that community is growing. Right now I'm around 1.75 thousand, which I'm really happy for. That doesn't sound like a lot when you're in a city this big. We're like, where are all the foodies? I know they're here. What happens is I've sent out my newsletter to that amount, and on the average week, I'm actually getting almost double that readership, sometimes more. It's because it's getting shared on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Some people are reading there, and they just haven't hit that little subscribe button yet. That's what I need to get them to do, is just hit that little button. But no, it's great. I mean, this is an assembled niche group of dedicated foodies. So it's kind of like to be really careful, I call it like nano influencer, which is technically a term based off the audience size. It's not the same thing as the influencers just putting stuff up on TikTok, shooting a video and calling it a day. We're still doing the deeper journalism I was talking about, but this is a group that, because of its assembled, common interest, they are, I like to think they're the most savvy foodies in town who, when we tell them about something, they're going to go do it. I wrote about the Broadmoor's Colorado Appreciation specials happening this month and next, January and February. And yesterday I got 2 or 3 people messaging me or texting me personally like, hey, of the 3, Del Lago, the Big Golden Bee, or Tavern, which one should I go to first? Like, they're engaged, they're seeing it, and they were going to go make that reservation. So we actually have engagement points where we get people active and doing something. That's huge. That's really hard to do. So I'm really happy with where the page is at now in terms of subscriber count. And then I can get into the nerdy stuff, the metrics you and I know about, but the best one I like to talk about, and I'll do it quickly, and it's boring, is the open rate. And people who send out newsletters, it's important. Yeah. It's like you might have a bunch of, thousands of people, but depending on whether they actually open that email or not is important. And I've been told, and I don't have the exact number, but somewhere around 10% or less is an average number. And I'm at 60% consistently.
That's amazing.
It's really, every time I meet a marketing or PR person, they're like, what? Excuse me? And so what I'm telling them is like, look, it's a smaller audience compared to our city size, but it's active. And again, like, because that 60% is opening, I know we've got an engaged readership. That's huge. It's really hard to build. That's why it's taking time, I think, because it's real people. It's not bots. It's not a big number on your Instagram, but half of them are fake,
Right. Well, I think we talked about it, in the past couple of days when we've sort of been talking about this podcast, is that, when you were at the Indie, you had readers that just read your food columns.
Right.
But there's, 32 other pages in a newspaper that they either have to sift through, get through, figure out how to find your content, and now those readers can just get just that content and don't have to worry about do I have to pick up the whole thing?
Right.
They can just find the stuff that they actually want and what they're passionate about.
And maybe that's a good segue into what you're doing, because you're doing the same thing with Focal Pint and Focus on the Beer. So you want to jump into that and tell us about what you do now and what you were doing before?
Yeah, I took over Focus on the Beer from Eric Steen, Daniel Flanders, and Isaac Grinaldson, who they started it back in 2010, I believe. And so I took over in 2013 and have been running it ever since. And at that point, we were a website blog. We posted everything to the website, and we had great views. And the advent of social media, and social media was happening back then, but really people just like came in droves to Facebook groups and Facebook. And a lot of the sort of like breaking news that a beer blog would be able to provide was almost being like broken by some random person that ran into a brewer, at the brewery or at the grocery store. And we were, it was really hard to get that engagement from just a website-based blog. And so when you jumped over to Substack, I had helped you with the design of your logo and everything, and sort of the management of the back end, and I saw how easy it was and how your engagement was so fluid and there was less barriers between you and your audience. And I felt like that's sort of where we were sort of running into that with Focus on the Beer, is that there were more barriers. There was groups you had to post in, you had to share these, just trying to get people to click on something and read through it. And being able to just send that straight to someone's inbox and allow them to read it, on their device, on their phone, without having to open a browser, without having to actually like it removes those extra clicks and those extra steps that someone had to do. So it was sort of a natural thing, and I don't know why I didn't think of it beforehand.
Well, it's all right. Necessity of the moment.
Right. And so we've grown a lot. At that point, I think we were using MailChimp for some of our newsletters, and they were just automated based on what we posted to the website. They were very low effort content, which doesn't really work well. That it doesn't help drive conversation.
Right.
So switching over to basically posting 95% of the time on Substack, our engagement's up. We're only at about 43 to 45% open rate, which is still great.
Great.
But we've increased our numbers from about 600 subscribers to close to 1,000 subscribers. And everything's free for Focus on the Beer on the Focal Pint newsletter. I'm not charging. Right now, I'm just trying to get the news and my view on Colorado Springs and the beer scene out there.
And you have a deep archive of former Focus on the Beer podcast, right?
Yeah, we have about 85 to 90 different podcasts that we've done over the course of the years. We had a radio show on KCMJ, the nonprofit radio, thanks to Dave Gardner getting us on there. And we had a radio show every week. So that helped sort of kick our butts into gear to create a show and have guests on. And, we broke the rules a little bit. We had beer in the studio when we weren't supposed to have beer in the studio. Sorry, it happened. But it was needed for a beer podcast. So that really helped sort of kickstart everything. And then as the pandemic happened and afterwards, we're sort of dwindled, trying to get more things figured out and set up. But now we're starting with this and partnering with you.
And are you a one-man team like me, or when you say we, is there more behind Focus on the Beer right now?
We have another writer, Josh Howard, who's with us, and he's here. He helps a lot with some of the more like home brewing style content or beer judge. He's a certified beer judge with the BJCP, and he helps with a lot of that stuff. He helps cover events, so he'll go up to GABF. He'll go to all the different beer festivals, and so he's more of our boots on the ground. I'm more of the content and writing things. And
if people ask, is Focus on the Beer? It's the umbrella for Focal Pint now, or are you really dedicated to Focal Pint and we'll focus on the beer, stop publishing? If we did get into the nerdy part of it,
talking nerdy part, because I've had that question come up if Focal Pint is a new thing, and what it is it's a new avenue for me to get the beer content that was being posted on Focus on the Beer directly into people's inboxes. Okay. So what for me it's basically the umbrella company is Focus on the Beer. Our website's still there. Thanks to my day job, I will always have a website. So that presence will always be there. So that has all of our archives in there of all the different things we've done over the course of 13 years now.
Okay.
But Focal Pint is really our plan and our action going forward.
And would you say then that brings us to the next point? What is Tap and Table? What are we doing here today, and what is this show?
Well, sort of born out of our collaboration of your brand and how that all worked. But essentially what we kept talking, like we should talk about these breweries and these restaurants and these foodies and these entrepreneurs and these chefs that are doing amazing things in our city. And a lot of times the conversation is around who's putting out a PR, who's putting out a release, who's doing what dinner, what beer release. But the lesser known stories aren't really as easy for people to find and get.
Yeah, because it still requires reporting and going and doing what I do and what you do too. Like we're putting out those feelers, we're going and meeting with the people, and then we've got that great little assembled community who's sending us those tips of places they go, things they see. I get messages throughout the week from people like, hey, have you been here yet? I just saw this place open. Have you been there yet? Did you hear so-and-so was closing? So it's awesome. I mean, after a long time, that's what you get as a reporter, is that great feeder base of eyes in the community.
Well, and the hope is that we can actually bring in some of these people that are more behind the scenes, both brewers, chefs, people that are in the beer, arts, entertainment industries here in Colorado Springs, to help sort of bring like a little bit more emphasis to their voices.
Yeah.
It's not just us. We have our perspectives, we have our bias, but we also want to involve as many people that are involved in this community as possible in order to make sure that all works out.
Yeah. And another thing I want to make sure people understand with Tap and Table, what we're going to do here, we're going to try to stay nomadic. So we're going to try to record in a different location each episode. Keep us on the move, keep us in the community, keep it fun, keep different beautiful backdrops for the viewers who are watching this on YouTube or whatever. So that's one thing. We're going to be nomadic. Two, we're always going to be drinking something. That could be non-alcoholic. It could be coffee. It could be kombucha. It could be whatever. It
could be something we're eating too.
Yeah, it could be something we're eating. Who knows? But we always want to be drinking something and somewhere different. On that note, should we talk about what we're drinking right now?
This week's Table Stakes segment is brought to you by Trail Water from Pikes Peak Brewing. In a declining craft beer market, Pikes Peak Brewing knew it was important now more than ever to pivot. So after 12 years of brewing beer, Pikes Peak has officially entered the NA market with Trail Water, a sparkling water infused with hops. Amarillo, Cascade, and Citra hops bring to life a bubbly beverage with an easy drinking citrus finish. Look for cans of Trail Water in liquor stores or in signature mocktails at local bars and restaurants. Yeah, so this is a segment that we're going to have in every single episodes, and we're going to call it, at least for now, the table stakes. So if you have ever if you know the term of what a table stake is, it's the minimum thing you have to bring to the table. So like in gambling, it's the minimum amount of money you have to bring. So this is for us to come to a table and talk about what we're talking about. This is the minimum thing we need. We need something to sort of converse over and connect over, because Matt talks a lot about food, and I know about food. I love food, but I'm also not as well knowledgeable as he is, and vice versa for beer. So if we can find a common thread that we can both connect over, that allows us to do that. And so just a shout out for anyone that wants to. If you want to get your product on this show, just let us know. We've got, we'd love to be able to work with local organizations to try to bring that emphasis to maybe lesser known things or things that are coming out that are cool and different. And
or if you want us to film at your place too.
Right, that's another thing. So we're here at Streetcar 520. Before they're open, you may have noticed we've got some workers coming in behind the scenes. You'll see them pass through. They're getting ready to open up here. It's a Saturday. We came in before they opened. So we're here recording. We're going to be recording live. But we're also going to be tasting things and sort of riffing on them on live. So you'll get sort of our thoughts.
And the reason we're here this morning, though, specifically, is there's this new product from Pikes Peak Brewing called Trail Water. It's a hop water. Do we remember the hop variety? I know we both wrote about this already. It was the Citra and was it two other?
Citra, Amarillo, and Mosaic, I believe, is what it was.
And so this is a great dry January drink because it's non-alcoholic. You get that satisfaction of the hop flavor like you would drinking a beer, but that light, refreshing. It's a carbonated water, so you don't get dehydrated by it. You don't get super parched. It's got this great, nice citrus finish. I really like that. What else? We both have already had samples from this, thanks to our buddy Travis Flett, who works there.
Yeah, and actually, one thing I was going to say is that the cans we got were sort of a pre-production run, proof of concept almost. They hadn't even finalized the labels yet. We had sort of these temporary labels on there. This tastes better than that version for some reason. Maybe it's the fact that I can actually see that it's not perfectly clear. A lot of hop waters are going to be just this sparkling, perfectly clear, like a LaCroix. And this has got some haze to it. I mean, you can see there's a little bit of almost yellowish, greenish color to it. And whether that's, I know that their brewer, I talked to their brewer Fed about this hop water, and he said that basically what they're doing is different graduated temperatures for hop steeping. So they're using real hops. There's no hop extracts in this, and they're doing a different graduated temperatures to pull out different flavors from those hops without grabbing all that bitterness.
Right.
So on the beer side of things, hops are added to the boil when they're making beer, and that pulls out bitterness and basically converts those volatile oils and those resins into bittering units. And that's that bitterness you taste when you're drinking a beer because of the process that they used on this hop water. Because it's not they don't need to boil it. They don't need to extract flavors out of different ingredients. They basically, they basically did a steep on the hops in hot water at different temperatures to extract different flavors that they wanted to do. And then they paired that up with some citric acid.
Right.
So
that's that crisp finish, that nice little lemony finish.
Crisp citrusy thing that you are tasting is that citric acid in there.
Okay. I checked back. I've got my story here. It's Cascade, Amarillo, and Citra hops. That's our tri-hop blend.
Yeah. So no Mosaic. I would love to see Mosaic. I think a lot of I was seeing Athletic Brewing was putting out a Mosaic beer as one of their new special edition things, and Mosaic is one of my favorite hops. So it would be awesome to see more variations of this. I know we were talking with Travis Flett, who's I believe their offsite beer manager at Pikes Peak Brewing, and he said that this is the almost the proof of concept. Basically, they want to get this out there to everybody, and hopefully it does gangbusters. We're in what a lot of people will do call dry January, and at that point, it's really a great option for people that are looking for a little bit of hop flavor, but also not alcohol.
And I think they believe they've told us that this is the first one to market locally, right? So we've seen this before. There's some probably from national brands. Pikes Peak Brewing is the first one in the Springs to release hop water, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think there's some other breweries that have put out some sparkling waters, but I'm not 100% sure if they're actually a packaged hop water.
Right,
I believe most things have been on tap in tap rooms.
Yeah.
But Pikes Peak's the first one to really, they're leveraging their canning line. They're leveraging their production facilities to put out 6-packs of this hop water to the market. So you can, I think, I saw that Cheers has this. I'm pretty sure Coltrane has it or will have it. Streetcar 520 has it on tap. So if you want to come down and have brunch and have a hop water, they've also got a couple cocktails or mocktails that they're making with this hop water. So there's a bunch of options, and it's really versatile because it isn't. There's no alcohol, there's no beer, there's no bitterness. So it lends itself to a lot of different things. And
right.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I think also too, I'm told here at Streetcar 520, when the bartender manager, he's going to start creating mocktails and cocktails with this.
That's great.
Either now or soon, something. And he might even be in and drop by and say hi during this episode. We'll see if he comes by. And maybe we get to taste something. But so yeah, I'll be wanting to check back in here to try those drinks. I know we're going to have a next segment coming up about your Focal Pint Beer Awards. You want to stop for a quick thank you to our sponsors again?
Yeah, well, first off, we want to make a shout out. Thanks to our presenting sponsor for this episode and for the first couple episodes we have. That's the Downtown Partnership.
I think it's a whole month's worth of episodes, actually. Right. Okay. So
that's sort of just the word we're going to cut there.
Sure. Okay.
And we'll pop in the actual.
Okay, that'll be the ad for those guys. And then we also wanted to. Do we need to thank Pikes Peak Brewing again separately? And
we'll do that
after this one. Okay.
This will be specific for Downtown Partnership.
Okay. Do you want to launch into beer things you're ready to be interviewed about here? What are we calling that? The Focal Pint Beer Awards?
Local picks.
Local picks. Focal Pint Local Picks. It's going to be fun to tongue twist. All right, we're back. Ryan, I want to talk to you about your Focal Pint Local Picks. Can you say that for me twice really fast? Very well. Very good. Okay. What is it? What is that?
So, a number of years ago, folks that we were putting together awards best of, I think, because we noticed that and that a lot of their year-end awards just recognized some of the biggest. There was Bristol always going to win, Laughing Mountain always win, and not to say that Bristol doesn't do great things and Laughing Mountain's every year, but there is a lot of other options in this town. And we wanted to be able to allow people to vote on and recognize other breweries aside from the big Bristol.
Right. At that time, there was maybe, 50 or 50 plus categories for food, everything, hamburger, pizza, taco, whatever. And yet for beer, we only got best overall and best style. And it was like, we felt like it was underserved in terms of there's so much more you could do for this category. Then again, there's only so many best of awards you can have before people stop filling out the ballot. It's just overkill. So I love that you guys broke out and did that. Hey, this is a whole other industry. We're going to do some more awards on the side, which were well respected, and people definitely tuned in, and some of them created controversy. Like what happened over the years? I know there was a couple times where people got really mad about some winners.
So the first year we did it was 2014, and essentially what happened is we ran the voting, and with a standard voting competition, the hard thing is that it's really a popularity contest. And there were some organizations, and I'm not going to name names, but that stuffed the ballot. They put in as many votes as they could for themselves. And at that point, I was just running this, trying to make this really sort of a very democratic process where I let the votes be what they were. I didn't look at it and go, does that make sense for a winner, and moderate it and sort of edit a little bit, or even dedupe, look and say, oh, there's 300 votes for XYZ brewery that all came in within 5 minutes of each other, all from the same IP. Like I had all that information, but I just for some reason I didn't do it, and then that was my mistake back then. And we had a local brewery owner and brewer who's no longer in the industry, and I'm not gonna name any names, but they went to Twitter and basically called me out personally for it. And it was my creation, it was my name behind it, but that was it felt like a little bit of a low blow, and it caused a bit of controversy for years, and strained our relationship between myself and this individual. We're on good terms now. They're an incredible brewer. They're an incredible person. They're no longer in the beer industry, but I actually consider them a friend now, and it may be more so because we had that sort of challenge.
Yeah.
So long story short, we did that for a number of years, and every year there was that ballot stuffing, and even with deduping and removing what looked like to be fraudulent votes, it never really seemed like it was giving a fair shake to the community. Yeah. Every year we had people complaining about, why wasn't there this category? Why wasn't there this category? Why didn't this person win? This is my favorite brewery. Why isn't that one there? Right. And when you're using just a pure vote-based situation, it's really hard to do that. So this year,
you went to ranked choice, right?
I went to ranked choice.
Did it help? Did it work?
I think it did. We had less votes overall. We had about 105 people fill out the ballot. And for those that don't know about ranked choice, basically ranked choice is it's a way of voting where you basically put in your top 5 preferences for a certain category. And for that, for those things, essentially what happens is it takes it looks at everyone's first choice, and if one choice gets the majority of all of the votes, that one gets proclaimed the winner. If not, it then eliminates the least vote getter, and looks at everyone's second choice, and then so on and so forth until a majority winner is found.
And they're doing this in like local elections in certain states. They've moved ranked choice voting in certain states for state ballot things, and I actually quite like it. I've seen some segments on the news that seem to say it's a little bit more fair. We've even seen candidates out polling together, like, hey, at least choose these two, and we get higher up on the thing. So it's created some interesting dynamics there.
Yeah, and I was actually talking to the founder of the company that I used, this ranked choice, ranked voting. I forget the name of the company. I'll link it in all of our show notes here. But the advantages of that, he said that the city of Boulder just used it for some sort of governmental election, and it worked really well for that. Mm-hmm. And so some of the advantages, and this is really what spurred me to pick this, was that it basically determines the candidate with the strongest support. Right. So instead of just who gets voted, when someone has to just pick one thing, they may just choose the name they recognize. So that's what we've realized happened a lot with the Indy or the Gazette things, is that people look at a list of breweries and they go, I only know Bristol, I'm going to click Bristol. Right. But they're not able to give you a range and have that sort of overall support for multiple choices. And so it sort of allows for that to happen. Yeah. It also sort of reduces any wasted votes, because if your votes went for a candidate or a choice that got removed, it rolls that into the next choice.
The next person gets it. You're
right.
So
your vote is still counted, and it just goes to your next best preference.
So how many breweries do we have in town now? 30-something, right? 35-ish?
33, 34-ish.
Something like
if you're
that.
Counting tap rooms and things,
Right.
We've got places like Jacks who've moved into town from Falcon, and we've
Right.
got Peaks and Pines who moved from their Tut spot and moved all their brewing down to Fountain, but their
Okay.
Tut location is still there. They're all still part of the Pikes Peak region.
Right. We even go as
And-
far as Paradox and the Divide area, right?
It's hard to just quantify Colorado Springs, and I get in trouble because I've left Peaks and Pines out because they were in Fountain. And when you do a mental search of Colorado Springs, or you look on some ColoradoBreweryList.com and you look at Colorado Springs,
Right.
Fountain doesn't come up because it's not Colorado Springs. And I need to honestly, I'm bad at that, so
We need to put
them.
them in. We're going to stop, though. We're not going to go all the way to Pueblo and hit Brew's Ale House, though. It's Pueblo. It's not Springs.
Right, and
We're not going to Castle Rock. We're not going to Denver. But, again, Divide, Fountain, Security, Widefield, Falcon.
Yeah.
They're good. We're good. We're close enough.
Yep. And we have a list of map of breweries on the Focus on the Beer website, and that does include things like World's End Brewing in Canyon City,
Okay.
and Florence Brewing in Florence, and the
Yeah, the
Pueblo
ancillary,
West breweries
right.
and ones like that. But we didn't include that for this voting competition.
And how many categories did you do this year?
This year, that's the hardest thing is like I said before, categories are what a lot of people always have contention over.
Right.
And so I picked 7 categories.
Okay.
I will probably do more.
There's
but
too many
I'm gonna-
beer styles to do 30 categories. It can't be every single beer style
Right.
that's common. It can't be the best Hefe, the best Blonde, the best Brown, the best Stout. You're like,
It sort of
it's
muddies,
overkill.
it muddies the waters a little bit. And the other part with this is that I've been sort of revisiting some of my history as I was a fine artist in college, and so I'm actually hand making all of the awards for every brewery, and they will all be sort of a similar format.
Cool.
And there'll be something that can be hung on the wall that will look really, really sort of unique and cool. And then the hope is that like the Gazette Awards and like the Indie Awards, that those breweries that maybe win 2 years in a row will be able to show these plaques on the wall.
Yeah.
And actually it'll have a little bit of that social proof for anyone that comes to their brewery and is able to see that. So
Yeah.
I'm still working on those. I will have those to those breweries hopefully by February because they are being hand created by
very cool.
myself. But let's get into the
winners,
awards
right?
here.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first place we're going to be hearing about the winners. You'll also put it in your Focal Pint newsletter in the coming week or so.
It'll all get announced at the same time this episode comes out. So if you're listening to this, you've probably either read it, maybe, so you maybe know who I'm going to talk about. But in no particular order, I sort of took the order that people voted and I scrambled it up a little bit and put them down here.
You want to do best overall first, or put that for the last?
We're gonna we'll stop at the one of the categories. So I'll read off the categories and then we'll tell you who won on them. So
Okay.
I had best hoppy beer, I had best beer quality, best brewery experience, like the ambiance, the actual going to the brewery, best experience, best new brewery. So that's any brewery that opened in the last 24 months or
Okay.
less. Best malty or non-hoppy beer.
Okay.
Most improved brewery, because breweries are always making themselves better. They're changing the recipes. Brewers move to
Yeah.
new spots. And then also I had best 3 breweries. So I put a list of all the breweries, and basically we picked they had people pick the top 3.
Okay.
So there were 3 winners for that. And that one actually I was surprised by some of these winners, and that's
Okay.
a great thing.
Cool.
Best hoppy beer went to Cerberus. And I'll agree with that. Some of these I'll give you my sort of take on it.
Now, is that the Elysium specifically, or just any of the hopped beers?
It was just hoppy beer.
Okay.
So best overall hoppy beer, and there's a lot of great breweries making great IPAs in this town.
Oh, it's like the best category,
But,
most
Elysium
competitive.
is one of their core beers, and so that might be why people chose Cerberus
Okay.
over some of the other ones. Best beer quality went to Goat Patch.
Okay.
And they're a stalwart here in our community.
Oh,
They are
definitely.
bringing on some of the best brewers. They have basically they're cranking their production up to the point where they have some of the top brewing talent in this town, and they keep tongue in cheek, they keep poaching some of the best talent from other breweries.
Yeah.
Because they've got a great ownership team, they've got a great I'll say corporate structure.
Yeah.
Joanna over there, Avery, their whole team is really, really strong at knowing how to run a business so that people enjoy working there.
You want to go back and shout out the head brewer at Cerberus?
Yes. The head brewer, as of right now, is Troy Johnson.
Right, who has a long history in town, other breweries dating back
He's
to...
actually he'll be. I heard through the grapevine that he'll be actually leaving Cerberus here sometime in the next couple of weeks
Okay.
to move to Goat Patch.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Do we know who his replacement is?
Their assistant brewer Brian will be taking
Okay.
over, and Brian's amazing. He's
Now, what does that
incredible.
mean for Goat Patch? Since we're talking about Goat Patch, does that mean Darren is doing something different, or
I don't
Troy's
know.
coming onto the
I haven't
team?
been able to talk to Kate or Darren about how that. I haven't even talked to Troy really about this. I heard this from Josh Howard, our other focus writer, found this out.
See, this is what the news looks like, people. Right now, we're talking about, like, this is how we hear things. We're not even sure yet. We still got to make that next call.
Yep.
But we start hearing whispers of things, and then we start jumping on that, and then we start doing our reporting. I'm going to tell a very quick, funny story. I used to live with Darren Bays back in college. We were roommates for a brief period of time.
That's hilarious.
So my claim to fame is having lived with Darren, head brewer over at Goat Patch. It's an awesome time.
So you were there when the goat was
When
small.
I had, when the braid was only like yay big or something. I can't remember exactly how big. We worked together at Il Vicino back when I was in college.
That's
so
great.
yeah, we have some history there too. So congrats to both Cerberus and Goat Patch.
So,
what's next?
Best brewery experience, and this one actually, when this came up and popped up, it makes a whole lot of sense. And this brewery has spent a lot of time working on it and making sure that their experience is, sort of top of the barrel.
I almost want to guess, but I'm afraid to. I have no idea. There's a lot of great ones.
Guess.
I mean,
who would you guess?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many. I love going up to Paradox. It's unique up there. It's a great, incredible views of Pikes Peak and all that. The atmosphere.
It's not Paradox.
It's not Paradox. Who else has great? Actually, I'm going to embarrass myself if I keep throwing out names. Just tell me. Just tell me.
So the winner was Red Leg. And
Red Leg, okay.
Red Leg has that
Actually,
new
that
campus
makes
they have
perfect
on
sense.
West
Okay.
Garden of the Gods Road there. They have the new band shell that just opened up for their latest anniversary last July 4th. They've got a rooftop deck. They've got all of this great things.
That makes perfect sense.
And they're really pumping out really cool beers.
Well, they're huge. I went over there on a Saturday night. I don't know, a few months back or something. It was. I could barely get a drink. It was just mobbed with people. I looked around. I was like,
it
"This
makes
is
sense
incredible what they've built there."
The sampling that we got, it might, albeit a small sampling size, picked Red Leg Brewery as the top brewery experience. And that experience of going to that brewery. They have all those pods of the different things. You can get cocktails, you can get beer, you can rent a bike, you can buy pizza, sandwiches.
Yeah. So credit goes to Todd Baldwin for building that whole thing out and having the ambition. Who's head brewer over there? Who do we need to shout out for that now?
I'm not sure who's their head brewer right now. Troy was their head brewer before moving to Cerberus.
That's right.
And I haven't kept tabs on their back house.
So we need to check in with them soon.
So the next category we have is best new brewery. So this is breweries that opened up in the last 24 months or so. So there was about 6 or 7 of them that have opened up in the last 2 years.
Yeah, who is that? I'm trying to think of who's.
Urban
Animal.
It included people like Urban Animal, not Goat Patch, Bell Brothers. Batch Slapped.
Controversial name on that one.
Wackadoo was in there.
Wackadoo, okay.
Bunch of Red Swing had opened up, and the one that won was essentially Urban Animal.
Okay.
And that makes sense. For me, it makes sense because Mike Santani, their head brewer, he's got tons of brewing experience from across different breweries. He helped start Ironbird. He was brewing at Pikes Peak for a while. He was brewing Red Leg for a while.
Right.
And then their ownership team includes Mandy and Brian Bradigan, who are part of the Colorado
they had Colorado Craft,
Colorado Craft Tailham Street Social team. And so they have a lot of that sort of organizational business acumen that maybe a small brewery that's been started by a home brewer might not have. And so they really came out of the gates just cranking and doing great things.
Right.
And the community has really sort of respected that and understood that.
Their IPAs are amazing too, from my experience.
Yeah. Well, it's just there's a quality of beer and that's it was great. So the other thing the next category we have is best malty or non-hoppy. So Cerberus won that hoppy one. This one was a neck and neck.
Who were the two?
It was between Goat Patch and Storybook pretty much until the end.
Very cool.
And Storybook ended up winning, and I think that's great. Their brewer and owner Pete unabashedly is not a fan of hops, and he really touts his malty beers as being incredible, and so that's what he's done.
Very cool. And it's also they're off the beaten path. They're in that industrial park off Fillmore, so a lot of people still don't know about them after all these years. So.
Right. Yeah. They're right on El Paso, and they're doing great stuff. So definitely go check them out.
Cool.
Most improved, we had Nano 108. And Nano's gone through a lot of upheaval over the years. Their very original, way back in the day, Keith Brewer, they had a falling out with, and that sort of turned bad. And then Zach Weller, who's now at Trinity, was there for a while and really sort of helped right the ship. Okay. He's since moved over to Trinity and is really helping with Trinity's Forge and their original location. But yeah, Nano 108, Keith Hernandez is their brewer right now, and he's just making incredible beer.
Awesome.
And he has sort of the backup by Michael, their owner, to do cool things, but also to not worry about if he needs to dump a batch or if he needs to make sure something tastes the right way before it gets put on tap. He has that ability thanks to that sort of that patience and that backup from the ownership.
Yeah.
And he's really, if you were looking for a spot to get some beer, head to Nano. They are kicking butt.
It's awesome. So, and we have any categories left? Or
we have one last category, and that's just the best breweries.
Best breweries, okay.
So what got picked for best breweries? Two that have been that are part of some other. They have one other categories, and one that I really think is kicking butt as well.
Cool.
So Goat Patch and Cerberus were included.
Okay.
People chose them, and that sort of makes sense when you have best hoppy beer. Hoppy beers are usually some of the more popular ones, and then best beer quality. It makes sense that they may be one best brewery as well. And then the third one we have is Mash Mechanics here downtown on Pikes Peak. I think they were outside of that open in the last 2 years mark, but they are doing incredible things. They have a great slate that really fits anybody's drinking abilities, to the point where they even have customizable seltzers. You can put whatever syrup you want in your seltzer to make their base seltzer taste like anything.
That's cool. It's interesting. I mean, I'm surprised about some of these. Actually, congrats to all of them. They've all done great work. I didn't hear the stalwart names. We didn't hear Bristol on here. I didn't hear Metric. I didn't hear Fossil. I didn't hear Red Swing, Manitou. There's OCC Brewing. So I guess we both know that there's some awesome breweries that did not make this list.
Right.
I'm going to give you the title here of like beer tastemaker locally or whatever. To credit you for you have your eye closely on this whole scene. Do you have any feelings moving away from this, or do you not want to? This is like letting the readers talk, have their say, basically, but you don't want to override them. But how do you feel about these results?
It's letting the readers have their say, but also basically what I was talking to Jordan Oswald from Batch Slapped last week. He basically was like, "Hey, who won? I'm like, I can't tell you, but I will tell you, I'm surprised."
Okay.
I understand why some of these ones, but I would have maybe, if it was just my choice, I have my own bias. I would have picked different things in each category. I might have agreed, but I also may have picked something different because of my tendencies, where I go. And some of the places that you mentioned are places that I frequent a lot, but also I like this sort of, at least for this point, gives us a basis. And this is the first year of doing this new system with these new special awards. So hopefully next year we get even more and we can
more participation and maybe a few more categories, you think?
Yeah, I'll for category wise, I'm going to put out a poll on my Substack here with the newsletter that comes out next week, and that will basically have all the categories that I have, and then I want people to tell me another category that they would like, and hopefully get the community to tell me what a category I should have had.
Okay.
If I had best Pilsner, maybe OCC might have taken that crown because their West Side Pils is amazing. If I had best nonprofit partner one, maybe Fossil would have gotten that one because they do a lot of beers with nonprofit collaborations, and they are 1% for the planet type organization. So there's a lot of different categories that could be added, and like you said, there's 30 categories in these other contests for food and maybe two. So maybe we can find a happy medium for those. Yeah,
I think about those categories I see at GABF, the experimental, the field beers, things like that. And I do my Third Thursday pop-ups over at Local Relic, so I'm always keeping tabs on, I guess I label them one of our more experimental because they're always making something different. There's never that same beer on tap, and every time I go in, there's something new, and the ingredients get weird sometimes. So I like seeing those styles too. So yeah, I'd be excited to see what you come up with next year for that. As we wrap up here, I think we forgot to say one thing in the intro, which is about what this show, we're going to be drinking something, we're going to be popping up somewhere. Another intent is to kind of scrape both of our newsletters for the week or two that we're publishing around and just say, hey, what are you up to right now? What did you just report on? This is, our first episode ever. It's also the brand new year. It's, January 6th of 2024, an auspicious day nationally, unfortunately. Should we get into the Capitol riots? Let's just not touch that. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's not what we do.
No, it's not what we do. I think when we come back on the next episode, we're going to maybe spend some more time talking about what we were reporting on. I think both of us did some year in review wrap up. Yeah. And maybe that's a great way to go out on this episode. I would say I'm going to send my people to my Substack page and check out my post right before the new year. And I did sort of a 2023 in review, and I just did bullet points of all the big stories I covered, anything that was notable. And since I have some subscribers come on late, someone who signed up with me on September, October, November, If they weren't with me from earlier in the year, maybe they missed some of that reporting and hadn't gone back. So I just kind of scraped that for them and put together a really easy, digestible 2023 in review. And I'd say maybe a couple of the biggest stories or the things I had most traffic on when I looked at my metrics. Casa Bonita's opening, which isn't even in our town, but everyone was so excited about Casa Bonita and the whole South Park connection. So that was one of my best read newsletters, ton of traffic. And then more recently too, just my near the end of the year reporting on Green Line Grill, which was sort of under threat and maybe going to close, and now they're back open.
Story, yeah,
and just people responded and were all over it and have been giving Bobby over there a lot of support and trying to stop by and make sure they spend some money. So that's a huge story for me right around the end of the new year. And right now I'm just looking ahead at, actually, I've got a backlog of new spots that have opened that I need to get to review. So I'm trying to figure out, how can I fit that into my work schedule? So there's a whole bunch of places in town that I'm excited to try that I keep hearing about. So that's sort of on my to-do list. Go eat more now.
Awesome.
What about you?
My last thing, admittedly, I missed this last week. Between Christmas and New Year's, it was just sort of like too much, and I wasn't able to. We were waiting on this podcast to put out this, and really that's my only news. But the last thing was that Bell Brothers on New Year's Eve celebrated their second anniversary. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for a spot that's sort of a newer brewery, go in and check out what Cody and Curtis are doing. They're really giving it a really good go downtown.
Yeah.
And they have a brew pub there, so they've got some charcuterie plates and small bites.
I like their beer cocktails.
They're also sort of competing with some of the restaurants around there. So if you're looking for maybe a beer and a light thing to eat, go to Bell Brothers and check them out. Have you tried the beer cocktails there? They're great.
I love that. That's like one of my favorite things is they have a whole blackboard of drinks they've created, and with local spirits too. You'll get like Lee Spirits in there for some gin or whatever.
That's why they went the brew pub route.
Yeah. So I love that menu that they've put together too. What else on the way out here? We want to definitely thank our sponsors again.
Yep. So thanks to the Downtown Partnership for being our one of our founding sponsors for this podcast. Thanks to Pikes Peak Brewing's Trail Water for being the first table stakes thing that we are tasting and drinking, and this is it's delicious.
Yeah, it's great. Also, we want to say if there's anyone who wants to work with us on this show, if you want us to come film at your spot, if you want to be providing a drink for us to drink, if you have a story idea for us, if you're someone who wants to be interviewed, please send that to us. You can contact us both through our Substack pages, Focal Pint, Side Dish Schnipper. You could Google these; they'll easily pop up. We've got emails, we've got contact. We're easy to find. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. So, we'd love to hear from you.
Great.
Cool. Cheers. Episode 1 in the can.